Welcome back to an introductory course on ground support equipment. Till now we have learned about ground support equipment and their classification. In this section, we will be learning about powered equipment. We will also discuss their operations, types, uses, and all the necessary details. So do not skip any minute. Our very first equipment is a machine that is used to tow an aircraft known as towing tractor. A towing tractor is a vehicle used for maneuvering the aircraft on ground. It is also referred to as a tug or a tug master because of its functional resemblance with a tugboat used for maneuvering the ships in water. A towing tractor attaches itself to the aircraft through the nose landing gear, and after a firm attachment, aircrafts are maneuvered as desired. Although towing tractor is a pulling force, but because it can also push the aircraft, it is also known as a pushback tractor. Now there are three common ground operations performed: a pushback operation, aircraft repositioning on center line or a different bay, and aircraft movement for maintenance. A pushback operation is done to push back the aircraft from its bay to the start of the taxiway, from where it can follow the path to the runway. It starts after all the preparations for the next flight and when all other ground support equipments have been disengaged from the aircraft. During the operation, the towing tractor is engaged with the aircraft. Afterward, a ground personnel takes clearance from the pilot for releasing the brakes. Once the brakes are released, a safety pin is inserted at the nose landing gear to bypass the steering control of the aircraft. For safety reasons, these pins are used to bypass the hydraulic steering system of the aircraft, which allows the steering to be controlled by the tractor driver. This operation is performed with at least one of the aircraft engines running. The tractor driver controls the aircraft's speed to avoid and prevent any jerk that may damage to nose landing gear and hence damage the aircraft. The driver also controls the curve in which the aircraft is slowly turned to prevent improper alignment at the end of the operation. After a successful operation, the tractor is disengaged, steering system bypass pin is removed to give the full controls back to the pilots. At this point, the aircraft is at the start of the taxiway, where the pilot increases the thrust of the aircraft and the aircraft is on its own. Sometimes, in the case of large aircraft, the towing tractor is used to tow the aircraft on the runway. That is, taxiing is done with the towing tractor instead of using the aircraft engine. A towing tractor is also used to reposition the aircraft at the center line or the stop bars. It is due to the human error of the pilot or marshalman or any other reason the aircraft did not stop at its specific stop bar and has moved past its stop bar, or the nose landing gear has deviated from the center line. Therefore, a towing tractor is used to push back the aircraft at its proper position. Another common operation performed is to reposition the aircraft at another bay. This happens when the flight has disembarked its passenger on a certain bay, but the next flight for the same aircraft needs to pick the passengers from the different terminal. This usually happens on the national international flight changes. For example, an aircraft drops a passenger on an international terminal, but its next flight is domestic. Towing tractor is also used to tow the aircraft inside the maintenance hangar and tow it back after the completion of the maintenance. Now, a very interesting fact arises here with an important question. You might be thinking, why are towing tractors needed? Can't the aircraft move by itself on the ground? Well, there are two reasons to answer these questions: the jet engine's reverse thrust and jet blast, and economic feasibility. If we take a closer look at the working principle of the jet engine, it works on the following method: suck, squeeze, burn, and blow. It sucks the air from the front, compresses it, heats it by adding fuel, and finally expelling it with a very high velocity. This process creates the necessary thrust required to move the aircraft forward based on the Newton's law of action and reaction. Now, if you want to remove the towing tractor and allow the aircraft to move on its own, the jet engine does have a mechanism known as a reverse thrust mechanism. It is very easy to understand, as it only uses a conical assembly at the exhaust nozzle of the jet engine to redirect all of the high velocity air in the opposite direction. By doing this, it reverses the direction of the thrust and therefore aircraft can move backward. So why don't we use this mechanism to reverse the aircraft on ground? Because it is dangerous. A reverse thrust has enough power to knock out big vehicles off the ground. If reverse thrusters are activated on an aircraft bay, it can cause serious damage to the nearby object and can put human life at risk as well. Please note that an aircraft is parked facing its nose towards the airport building, and activating the thrust reversers will direct the air towards the building. So thrust reversers are used after the touchdown during landing by the pilot to slow down the aircraft's speed. The second reason is economic feasibility of the jet engine utilization. Towing tractors are used by the airlines for short distance movement instead of using the aircraft's engine or reverse thrust operation. It is because jet engines are very fuel efficient in the air, running at approximately 700 kilometers per hour. But using them on ground, running at 20 to 30 kilometers per hour makes it very inefficient. Let us consider an example that a commercial airliner consumes approximately 4 liters per second when the aircraft is moving on the ground. And if a pushback operation takes about 10 minutes, this consumes 2400 liters of fuel. The impact of burning such a huge amount of fuel on the environment is not justified, and no airliner will want to burn this much fuel and bear the cost. Therefore, towing tractors are used to support the aircraft on the ground for short distance movement. Now that we have discussed what they do and how important they are, let us discuss the varieties of a towing tractors. Occasionally, there are two types of towing tractors, conventional type and tow barless type. The conventional types are characterized by how they attach themselves to the aircraft. They use different types of tow bars for different types of aircraft based on weight and nose landing gear design. One end is attached to the nose landing gear and the other is attached to the tractor. They have a disadvantage of adding an extra weight when pulling or pushing the aircraft because they have to be heavy and firmly attach themselves on the ground to provide a sufficient friction to the vehicle and prevent them from being twisted from spinning at their own pace. A tow bar-less type lifts the whole nose landing gear and maneuver the aircraft by carrying it on its back. They have a hydraulic mechanism at the back to capture the nose. They have a less weight while operating, and overall fuel consumption is also better than conventional type. They have lower maintenance cost as compared to the conventional type towing tractors, and also tow bar less type reduces the inventory size of different tow bars for various aircraft. So with this I would conclude my lecture here. We have learned about the towing tractors in brief. In the forthcoming lectures, we will also learn some more important equipment necessary to support the aircraft on ground. So see you all in the next lecture.